project. We've got a lovely bit of broadleaf forestry behind us, and we've selected a sweet chestnut here for the project. And the guys, Pete and Cameron, are there ready with the equipment, so we'll just go and join them and have a better look at the tree. Three fellas, three of us, luckily.
Yeah, three fellas, the Irish lumberjacks.
We're amongst beech, oak and sweet chestnut as a mix.
How many trees do you manage?
About 1 million trees. We have a continuous cover forestry practice, so we're looking at always keeping trees on the land, so we will thin and we will take out the weaker trees, the trees of less form, or the trees of less favourable species. We chose sweet chestnut because it has natural durability when using it in the ground externally. We'll see in a moment when we fell it that it's a heartwood, so it's got high tannin qualities, which means that it will be more resistant to biological decomposition, and also from insect attack. It also dries really hard and is strong, and it has a small amount of flex to it, but it's exactly what you want for rustic building, and has been tried and proven for 2,000 plus years in Britain. Chestnut for stakes and cleaving, traditionally that would be on a coppice stump, maybe on a 15-year rotation. We haven't got that. We're timber growers here. We've got a small timber tree that needs to be thinned, and that's why we're going to be taking it. Because it's sweet chestnut, the magic happens. It will coppice and it will regrow multiple shoots from the one stump.
That would narrow it down from 1 million to a few hundred, thousands of then why this one?
This one in particular here is because it's surrounded by other beech trees which will go on to make final crop. The canopies are touching. All the time the canopies are touching, it means that there aren't the growth rates that we want. This tree is not going to grow much more because it's contained. The grain's nice and straight and clean. There's no big knots, there's no lower branching. So that will make really good splitting, cleaving wood. We can break down and make some of the material you're looking for. By cutting this tree today, it will free up more nutrients and soil benefits and space for the other trees around it to get bigger. I'm going to step back now, away from the tree. The chap's going to fell it in safety. There's the directional sink cut, and then the back cut will come in and leave a parallel hinge behind the directional felling cut to keep control. So these cuts that are going now are going to prevent the timber from splitting. So he's removed what's called buttressing. Some people call it putting ears in the felling cut. It's just all to help keep the timber quality good. If it was cut badly, as it went, it would crack and split and tear. Just marking up where his hinge is so he knows not to cut through it. There's 3 or 4 ways to tackle this, and every woodcutter will have their own approach. The stump's going to be left quite high, so the carbohydrates required for coppicing is actually going to be held there. Trees were evolved alongside the European beaver, which fells trees quite high, so the carbohydrates stay behind and they help push it up on its next regrowth. When the tree does sit back, he's immediately got the wedge in, so you can use the axe to lift it back up in the right way. The risk is it'll fall back and pinch the saw. Happy with that? So he's put a step lifting cut in there. It's a bit of craftsmanship. What was really important is it had the right speed, because it obviously has to break down through the rest of the canopy.
That lower limit took off is low enough, it doesn't really matter.
No, that's all good now, that'll be fine. It's just trimming out the branch wood so it's in a nice pole. You'll be grading it as well, thinking, all right, where does this grade end? Where shall I cross cut it? And we can leave the rest in the wood as deadwood habitat. A healthy tree might only have 60 species associated with it. A tree with dead wood might have 1,200 species. I mean, where we do let the light in, obviously you are getting other things naturally regenerating. That's what we want. We had the sink cut removed. So that was removed, which meant that it gave us direction. There was a hinge left on the tree here, which you can see we bored through the middle to stop it from tearing. And this gave control, like a hinge. As he came through, he bored the middle out and then he cut the back, had the wedge in, over it went. You're going to get buds coming up here and some natural regeneration of the coppice for the future. So come back in 15 years time and get some stakes. You'll have multiple stems here. Oh, there you are. There's a bit of birthday cake for you. You can count the years on that.
How old is this?
Mid to late 40s from probably one of the local prisoner of war camps, and you can count up the rings there. Here we've got some natural defects in the wood, but as we're going to be cleaving it down, some of those could be useful. It's got semi-clefting on it there, I won't charge you any more for that because it's going to be easier. We'll put that on the winch tractor now and we'll take that up the hill and we'll get it to an area where it's on hard standing where we can work. We can start looking for lines that might be useful, probably trim the shake out and it'll probably come clean in about a few metres time. You put the wedge in and cleave that. I'll tell you this now then, boy. When you break your lengths,
yeah,
cleave it from the top down.
From the top down.
Yeah.
Start at the narrow end.
Yeah.
Cleave from the tip, not the butt.
Well, some people do it in many different ways, so.
Yeah. But what would be interesting to see if people intuitively work that out.
Well, you might have gone through a lot of wood before then.
Work true. What's the length of that?
Right, 12.8 to this first branch.
12.8, that would give us 6 logs, right? 6 or 7 logs.
Yes, they give you 6.
And logs. if we're talking about 6 per log, that gives us between 35 to 40 in that region, which is kind of where we want to be. That's assuming we don't screw it up too much. So I'd err on a bit longer than less.
Cameron, remember I said I chased squirrel footprints?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the squirrels have been running up and down the trees.
How can you tell?
You can see the little claw marks on here. Yeah, like literally scratch marks. Might get one out of there.
I think it's a good idea. I like the idea of traditional craft and that sort of stuff. So I think it's it's very nice to see people doing it. You see a bit more of it nowadays, but it's still not that much. And it's nice to see that the skills are kept alive for everybody.
Oh, can you come and build my house for me?
So that your tree's emulating a wild boar truffling in the forest. So it's going to stimulate the soil. Come back in a year's time, see what's growing there. You can thin by form, thin by space, thin by market fashions, what's viable now. Sweet chestnut might get Phytophthora ramorum, and we might not be able to sell it in 5-10 years' time. It might all be dead wood standing, so we've got to think about climate resilience as well.
So that's an increasing concern, is it?
It is, yeah. We have areas in the southwest where we can't necessarily grow chestnut. I wouldn't choose it as a new planting because of the risks from the Phytophthora ramorum plant health issues.
Is that the same thing as ash dieback?
Very similar, yeah, it's from another continent and our trees don't have the resilience towards it. So your log, it's your log.
What do you think, Robert?
I think Jim's going to make an excellent adjudicator for the dad joke competition.
There's a but.
And that's a very big butt. Speaking of butts,
this is interesting, isn't it? Because when it has got shake. If that was a timber tree, I'd be chainsawing the shake out. I'd put a cut in. I'd say, what am I going to lose if I put a cut about here? Circular cracks in the wood, and there's a star one there. That's a benefit. But if you're going to be splitting it by hand, then that's something that could potentially be beneficial. Maybe cross-cut it there.
So it's not as simple as saying you need to cut it this way or that way. It depends on the purpose.
Absolutely, it depends on the purpose and the grading. So if that was to go in a firewood machine, for example, you wouldn't worry. You just put it all in. You got probably 30 centimetres there. Traditionally, stakes and things that you'd hit with a hammer tend to be about 5'6", about there. So up to you, Robert, what you'd like to be doing.
That's going to be about $1.20 above the ground. If you want to level it off, you want a bit more than that, so $1.30. If it's that, then how much more do you need to be beneath the ground so it doesn't fall over is the question. It's a trade-off between the convenience of hammering it in at a convenient height against it being too short in the end. So I generally err on the side of longer. So I'd rather go for 6 foot lengths, I think.
You want it at 6 foot?
Does that sound crazy?
No, you're the customer.
Yeah, but the customer doesn't know what he's doing.
Are you deluded?
The customer's always deluded.
That's the title, isn't it? Well, that's 6, then we go 12 then. The old squirrel, he's been busy up and down here. He'll be wondering where his tree is next year. I don't know what you want to do with wobbly, Pete. From here? Oh, don't worry about tape. Get 6 on that then.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Should be enough.
Who knows?
Does it feel odd to be looking at your new...
No, it's a different way of going about things, isn't it? I mean, going to Sydenham's, or actually to Longleat, to the timber yard just up the road from next door to Jim. You could just go there and say, you know exactly how many you need, and you just buy them. This is doing it the other way around. You start with resource, and then you work out what you can make from it. We all used to do it, but we've sort of forgotten a bit. Which means that we don't know how to do it, which means I might be completely wrong about this. Then I've got to rely on my amateur friends, neighbours and relatives to actually do the work. There's no instruction. But how hard can it be, lads, eh? Yeah. Not a bad workplace on a day like this, is it?
Favourite time of year really, because it's not too hot, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks idyllic from here.
The shaker's run out. It's just got a radial shake there, which is absolutely fine.
So if you want to split it, that's where you want to stick the wedge in, right?
Almost. I'm pleased with how that's turned out, and they look really nice when they're in their shorter billets. You can see them. The value here is probably anything between 90 and 130, 150 pound per cubic metre or per tonne, depending on how we shake hands on that. When you have better quality, it's nice to measure it in the cubic or hoppus foot, so we can work that out in the meterage, because that doesn't change as it dries. Whereas if it's high volume, low value, like perhaps for firewood or for chipwood or something like that, we got a lot of it, then you can do like a big stack measure of the big stack, or you can put it over the lorry weighbridge. We're going to do both. Go to the middle of the log, pull them up and just shout out 37. And we always round down to err on the side of the buyer as well, so we never round up.
Yes.
So there's always a
We
win there.
got that. We got the recording that, yeah.
So hang on then, let me get my log book.
34.
34. Need to work out the rate of taper of a frustum of a paraboloid.
37, 34, 30, 30, 28, 27, 25, 25, 20, 16.
You asked me, as we started this journey, how many trees we're going to need and how many cubic metres and what diameter trees. So we'll measure it in a metric form to give us cubic metres, and then we'll also, once we've got it on the lorry tomorrow, we'll weigh it as well, so we've got that information too. And then we can sit down over a cup of tea and decide what prices we're going to work out on.
Fair enough. No, but
Sometimes it can be a bit like a second-hand car deal in that sense, as to at what point am I trying to sell to you. If I'm selling to you and you're being naive, then I'll tell it to you wet, or if you're trying to pay for it on the weight, you're going to leave it on the wood to dry for maybe a month, and then you'll pay for it on the weight on the weighbridge later on.
yeah,
But
it's all in the price anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
the cost to get this to here, from a forester's point of view, for people to fell and extract, probably somewhere between 25 and 30 pound a tonne or a cubic metre, depending how we do business, to this point here.
And then the tractor
time for the horse there. Now we've got to upsell. We've got to get some margin for this tree, which has been growing on this land and been managed by formative pruning and occupying space for the last 70 years potentially. Where can you rent a piece of ground that much for £1 a year? So we now need to look at the value of the tree.
Yeah.
This is Loxham Carbon. This is really good. It's going to be a chestnut stake for 25 years, which is going to hold the carbon for a little bit longer than it would perhaps if it was firewood.
And meanwhile, it's growing again.
Yeah,
Tree.
to bark or not to bark is the question. Some people will say the bark allows the log to dry out slowly. Personally, I've always left the bark on, but a lot of people go to a lot of effort to get the bark off.
I'm always. Some people call it lazy.
Make sure that
Some people call it efficient.
Yeah. I agree with you. Depending on how splitty the splitting is, you might need to drill your holes. You might pre-drill.
Do we need to attach it with anything other, use anything other than gravity to keep it? Do we need to nail it to the attach it to?
You're going to find out.
Yeah. Functionally, it's just got to not fall over, and hopefully outlast me, so I don't have to do it again. Beyond that, I'm not fussy. I mean, it's got to look all right? It's just wooden wood. So.
It's going to look great. Next time you'll see this, Robert will be coming down your drive tomorrow morning.